The vast emptiness of space rippled like disturbed water as hundreds of massive ships dropped out of hyperspace. Each vessel stretched over a kilometer long, their dark metal hulls scarred from countless battles across the galaxy. Red lights blinked along their sides like angry eyes, and weapon ports opened like hungry mouths ready to feed. Admiral Kethvar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Bone Crusher. His forearms crossed behind his back as he watched the tactical display show ship after ship appearing in the Proxima system. 847 capital ships. The largest war fleet the Zephyrian hegemony had ever assembled. Status report. Kethvar growled in his native tongue. His translator device converted the words to Galactic Standard, though it could not hide the satisfaction in his voice. All ships have arrived safely, Admiral, reported his tactical officer, a thin creature with 6 legs and compound eyes. Long range. Sensors are picking up minimal resistance, just as our spies reported. Kethvar's mandibles clicked together in what passed for a smile among his people. The humans were such a young species. They had only learned to travel between stars 200 years ago. Before that, they were stuck on their single world, fighting among themselves with primitive weapons. Now they thought they could claim territory in space that belonged to stronger, older races. Show me what they have, Kethvar ordered. The main screen flickered to life, displaying the inner system. 3 human colonies orbited the star called Proxima. The planets were small, barely worth conquering, but they sat along important trade routes. Control them, and the hegemony could tax every merchant ship that passed through this sector. We count 12 human patrol ships fleeing toward the inner planets, the tactical officer reported. Standard design, nothing impressive. And there is one more vessel. Where? Here, sir. Near the asteroid belt around the 4th planet. A red dot appeared on the screen. Kethvar stared at it, his compound eyes reflecting the display's glow. One ship, a single vessel standing against his entire fleet. What class of ship is it? The tactical officer's antennae twitched nervously. Unknown, sir. It appears to be small. Very small. Our computers estimate it at roughly 300 meters in length. Kethvar's forearms dropped to his sides. 300 meters? His smallest escort ships were larger than that. His flagship was over 3 kilometers long. This human vessel was not even a proper warship. Perhaps it is a courier, suggested his second-in-command, a bulky creature covered in thick scales. They might be trying to negotiate. Or it could be a trap, warned the tactical officer. Though I cannot imagine what kind of trap such a tiny ship could pose. Kethvar studied the display for several minutes. In his long career, he had conquered 47 star systems. He had seen every trick, every desperate last stand that weaker species could devise. Sometimes they sent suicide ships packed with explosives. Sometimes they tried to ram his vessels with unmanned drones. Once, a species had even tried to collapse their own star to deny him the system. But this felt different. The human ship was not fleeing like the others. It was not charging forward in a doomed attack. It simply waited, hanging in space like it had all the time in the universe. Open a communication channel, Kethvar ordered. Let us see what these humans want to say before we crush them. The screen changed to show the interior of the human ship. Kethvar had seen humans before, through intelligence reports and captured video feeds. They were strange creatures, tall and thin with only 2 arms and 2 legs. Their skin was pale and soft without any natural armor or weapons. This one appeared to be female, though it was sometimes hard to tell with humans. I am Admiral Kethvar, of the Zephyrian hegemony, he announced. You are trespassing in territory that now belongs to us. Surrender immediately, and your deaths will be quick. The human woman looked directly at him through the screen. She had dark hair pulled back from her face and calm eyes that showed no fear. When she spoke, her voice was steady and polite. I am Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth ship Defiant. We received no notice that this system had changed ownership. Could you please provide the legal documents showing your claim? Several officers on Kethvar's bridge made chittering sounds that served as laughter among the different species of the hegemony. Legal documents? Did this tiny creature think this was some kind of business transaction? Our claim comes from superior firepower, Kethvar replied. As you can see, we have brought enough ships to destroy every human installation in this system, 10 times over. You have one small vessel. The mathematics are simple. Captain Chen nodded as if she was considering his words carefully. I understand your position, Admiral. However, I must respectfully ask you to turn your fleet around and leave this system. These colonies are under Earth's protection. The laughter on Kethvar's bridge grew louder. Even his translator device seemed to struggle with the absurdity of the human's request. Turn around? Leave? Did she not understand the situation? Captain Chen, Kethvar said, his voice growing cold. You command a ship that my smallest escort could destroy with a single shot. Your colonies have no defenses worth mentioning. Your fleeing ships will not reach safety before we catch them. Yet you ask me to leave? Yes, sir, I do. And if I refuse? Captain Chen was quiet for several seconds. She appeared to be thinking, though what she could be considering was beyond Kethvar's understanding. Finally, she looked back at him. Then I suppose we will have a problem. Kethvar cut the communication channel. His bridge fell silent except for the humming of the ship's systems and the distant rumble of the massive engines that could push his flagship through hyperspace. Admiral, his second-in-command asked. Your orders? Kethvar looked at the tactical display again. 847 ships under his command. The most advanced weapons in known space, shield generators that could protect against planet-killing weapons. And facing them was one human ship, smaller than some of the asteroids floating nearby. We will make an example, he decided. I want every ship in the system to watch, record everything and broadcast it to the human colonies. Let them see what happens to those who stand against the hegemony. His tactical officer's claws clicked against his control panel as he relayed the orders. Across the fleet, weapon systems came online. Gun ports opened along the sides of hundreds of ships. Missile tubes loaded with enough explosive power to crack a moon. Energy weapons that could slice through the thickest armor like it was paper. All ships report ready, Admiral. Kethvar looked at the small red dot on his screen one more time. In all his years of conquest, no enemy had ever made him feel unsettled. But something about the way Captain Chen had spoken bothered him. She had not begged for mercy. She had not tried to negotiate. She had not even seemed afraid. She had been confident. Target the human ship, he ordered. All vessels, prepare to fire on my command. The red dot on the screen seemed to pulse slightly, as if the Defiant was powering up its own systems. Kethvar wondered what kind of weapons such a small ship could possibly carry. Perhaps the humans had developed some new technology. It would not matter. No single ship could stand against his fleet. Admiral, we are detecting some unusual energy readings from the human vessel, the tactical officer reported. What kind of readings? Unknown, sir. Our computers have no reference for this energy signature. Kethvar's mandibles clicked impatiently. It does not matter. Ready all weapons. On my mark, we will show the galaxy what happens to those who defy the hegemony. The human ship hung in space, waiting. And somehow, despite all logic and military experience, Kethvar could not shake the feeling that Captain Chen was still confident about something. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Defiant, watching the massive alien fleet spread across her view screen. Each enemy ship was at least 3 times larger than her vessel. Most were much bigger. The largest ones looked like floating cities, bristling with weapons and armor that could withstand attacks from entire planetary defense systems. Captain, said Lieutenant Rodriguez from the communication station, we're receiving signals from the colonies. They want to know if we need backup. Chen almost smiled. Backup? The 12 patrol ships that had fled toward the inner planets carried light weapons meant for chasing smugglers and pirates. They would be destroyed in seconds if they tried to fight ships like these. Tell the colonies to maintain their current positions, she ordered, and send a message to Earth. Let them know the hegemony has arrived. Yes, ma'am. Chen walked to her command chair but did not sit down. Around her, the bridge crew worked at their stations with calm efficiency. 43 people total aboard the Defiant. Most of them were scientists and engineers, not soldiers. They had volunteered for this mission knowing they might never see home again. Energy readings from the alien fleet are increasing, reported Dr. Yamamoto from the science station. They're charging their weapons. How long until they're ready to fire? Approximately 3 minutes, Captain. Chen nodded. 3 minutes. In her previous life as a physicist, 3 minutes had been barely enough time to grab coffee from the lab's machine. Now it felt like an eternity. Status on our own systems, Dr. Park? The chief engineer looked up from her console. All systems are green, Captain. The recursion drive is fully charged and ready for activation. The recursion drive. 5 years of theoretical work. 2 years of building and testing. Humanity's greatest scientific achievement and probably its last hope. When the first alien contact had been made 10 years ago, Earth's leaders had panicked. The galaxy was full of older, stronger races with technology that made human ships look like toys. Earth's military had demanded bigger weapons, thicker armor, faster engines. They wanted to compete with the aliens on their own terms. But a small group of scientists had asked a different question. What if humans did not need to be stronger? What if they could be smarter instead? Captain Chen, came Admiral Kethvar's voice over the communicator. The alien had reopened the channel. I am giving you one final chance to surrender. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Chen looked at the view screen where the alien admiral's image had appeared. His forearms were crossed and his compound eyes reflected the red lights of his bridge. He looked confident. He had every reason to be. I appreciate your concern, Admiral, Chen replied, but I'm afraid I must decline your offer. Then you choose death for yourself and your crew. I choose to defend this system, as is my duty. Kethvar's mandibles clicked together and what Chen had learned was the alien equivalent of laughter. Captain, do you understand what you're facing? 847 warships, enough firepower to destroy every human colony in this sector, and you command one small research vessel. The Defiant is a bit more than a research vessel, Admiral. Oh? And what makes this ship so special? Chen glanced at Dr. Park, who nodded back at her. The recursion drive was holding steady at full charge. All systems were ready. Human curiosity, Admiral. We have a habit of asking questions that other species don't think to ask. Such as? What if physics itself could be turned into a weapon? Kethvar was quiet for several seconds. Chen could see him exchanging looks with other aliens on his bridge. I do not understand, he finally said. You will, Chen promised. Dr. Park, begin the initialization sequence. Aye, Captain. On the engineering console, rows of lights began to flicker from red to amber to green. Deep in the Defiant's hull, systems that existed nowhere else in human space hummed to life. The ship's hull began to shimmer with a faint blue glow that made it look almost ghostly against the black of space. Captain, Lieutenant Rodriguez called out. I'm detecting some strange chatter from the alien fleet. They're asking each other about our energy signature. What are they saying? Their computers don't recognize it. They've never seen anything like it before. Chen was not surprised. The recursion drive operated on principles that most species had never even theorized about. While other races had focused on building bigger fusion reactors and more powerful weapons, human scientists had been studying the fundamental forces that held reality together. Energy cascade is building, Dr. Yamamoto reported. Quantum field. Generators are online. Time to full readiness? 90 seconds, Captain. On the view screen, Chen could see weapon ports opening along the sides of the alien ships. Massive gun barrels extended from their hulls like the spines of some enormous creature. Missile tubes prepared to launch warheads that could crack a planet's crust. They're almost ready to fire, Dr. Park observed. So are we. Chen had read every report about the Zephyrian hegemony that Earth intelligence could gather. They were bullies who conquered weaker species and enslaved entire worlds. They believed that might made right, that superior firepower was the only thing that mattered in the universe. They were about to learn that humans had a different philosophy. Captain, Lieutenant Rodriguez said, his voice tense. The alien admiral is hailing us again. Put him through. Kethvar's image appeared on screen once more. This time, his compound eyes were focused intently on something off-camera. Probably his own sensor readings. Captain Chen, what is your ship doing? Our instruments are detecting quantum fluctuations throughout this region of space. Just preparing our defenses, Admiral. Those are not defensive systems. What kind of technology are you using? Chen smiled. The kind that asks what would happen if we could convince the universe itself to help us. That is impossible. Energy cannot be created from nothing. You're absolutely right, Admiral. Energy cannot be created from nothing. But it can be redirected in very interesting ways. The blue glow around the Defiant was getting brighter now, visible even against the light from Proxima's star. The ship looked like it was wrapped in electric fire. Quantum field is at 80%, Dr. Yamamoto announced. Recursion matrix is stable, added Dr. Park. Admiral, Chen said, still looking at the alien on her screen. I'm going to give you one last chance to turn your fleet around and leave this system peacefully. Kethvar's forearms dropped to his sides. You dare threaten me? With one ship? I'm not threatening you, Admiral. I'm offering you a choice. Leave now, or discover why humans don't build bigger guns. What do we build instead? Chen's smile widened. Better questions. She cut the communication channel and turned to her crew. Every person on the bridge was looking at her, waiting for orders. These were good people, scientists and engineers, who had spent their lives trying to understand how the universe worked. Now they were about to use that knowledge in a way that would change galactic history forever. All stations prepare for recursion drive activation, Chen commanded. Aye, Captain, came the responses from around the bridge. Dr. Park, is the quantum entanglement field in place? Yes, ma'am. We've been establishing quantum connections with every ship in the alien fleet since the moment they arrived. They never noticed because the effect is so subtle. And now? Now we turn their own energy against them. Chen sat down in her command chair and gripped the armrests. What they were about to do had never been attempted on this scale before. In theory, it should work perfectly. In practice, theories sometimes had a way of breaking down when they met reality. All ships in the alien fleet are charging weapons, Lieutenant Rodriguez reported. They'll be ready to fire in 30 seconds. Recursion drive at full power, Dr. Park announced. Chen looked at the massive fleet on her view screen one more time. 847 ships, all preparing to destroy her vessel, and everyone aboard it. In 30 seconds, they would unleash enough destructive force to glass a continent. She was about to show them why that was exactly what she wanted them to do. Engage recursion drive, she ordered. Aye, Captain, engaging now. The Defiant disappeared. Not completely. Admiral Kethvar could still see the small human ship on his tactical display, still detect its mass and heat signature. But visually, it had become something else entirely. The vessel now appeared to be made of pure light, its hull shimmering with patterns of blue and white energy that hurt to look at directly. What is happening to that ship? Kethvar demanded. His tactical officer's 6 legs scrambled across his control panel as he tried to make sense of the readings. Unknown, Admiral. The energy signature is unlike anything in our databases. It appears to be folding space around itself. Folding space? I do not understand it either, sir, but according to our sensors, the human ship is somehow bending the fabric of reality in a sphere around its position. Kethvar stared at the display. In 500 years of military service, he had seen weapons that could destroy stars and shields that could protect against black holes, but he had never seen anything that looked like this. The human ship pulsed with light, and with each pulse the distortion around it grew larger. Space itself seemed to ripple outward from the vessel like waves on a pond. The effect was spreading, reaching toward his fleet. Sir, his second-in-command rumbled. Should we delay the attack? No, Kethvar growled. Whatever trick the humans are trying, it will not save them. All ships, fire. 847 warships unleashed their weapons at once. The space between the Hegemony fleet and the Defiant filled with deadly energy. Plasma beams that could melt through a kilometer of solid armor. Particle weapons that could strip electrons from atoms. Missiles carrying warheads powerful enough to crack moons. It was the largest coordinated attack in the history of the galaxy. Enough firepower to destroy a dozen worlds. All of it aimed at one small human ship. The weapons reached the edge of the distortion field around the Defiant, and something impossible happened. They stopped. Not destroyed, not deflected. They simply froze in place, suspended in the blue-white energy field like insects, trapped in amber. Every plasma beam, every missile, every particle stream hung motionless in space. What is this? Kethvar breathed. Admiral, his tactical officer said, his voice shaking. The weapons are not being stopped. They are being absorbed. Absorbed? The energy field around the human ship is somehow collecting the energy from our attacks. Every joule of power we fired at them is being captured and stored. Kethvar felt something he had not experienced in centuries of warfare. Fear. How is this possible? On his view screen, Captain Chen's image appeared again. She looked exactly as calm as before, as if having the combined firepower of the galaxy's largest fleet aimed at her was no more concerning than a gentle rain. Admiral Kethvar, she said politely. Thank you for your contribution. Contribution? You have just provided the recursion drive with more energy than we could generate in 100 years. That was very generous of you. Kethvar's mandibles clicked together in confusion and growing alarm. What are you talking about? Let me explain, Captain Chen replied. While your people have spent thousands of years building bigger weapons and stronger shields, humans have been studying the fundamental forces of the universe. We discovered something interesting about energy. The blue field around the Defiant continued to pulse and grow. Now it was large enough to encompass several of Kethvar's smaller escort ships at the edge of his formation. Energy cannot be created or destroyed, Chen continued, but it can be redirected, moved from one place to another, changed from one form to another. The recursion drive does not generate power, Admiral. It borrows it. Borrows it from where? From you. As if responding to her words, the lights on Kethvar's bridge flickered. Several of his officers looked up from their consoles with alarm. Engineering reports a minor power fluctuation, sir, his second-in-command said. A minor fluctuation? Chen's voice carried a hint of amusement. That was just the beginning. You see, Admiral, when you fired on us, you created a quantum entanglement between your ships and ours. Every photon, every particle you sent our way established a connection. A bridge, if you will. The lights flickered again, this time staying dim for several seconds before returning to normal. And now, Chen continued, that bridge works both ways. Kethvar spun toward his tactical officer. What is happening to our power systems? The alien's compound eyes were wide with panic. Admiral, we are detecting massive energy drains throughout the fleet. All ships are reporting power fluctuations. How is this possible? The quantum field around the human ship has somehow established connections with every vessel in our formation. It appears to be drawing power from us. Kethvar looked back at the view screen where Captain Chen waited patiently for him to understand. You are stealing our energy? Not stealing, Admiral. Redirecting. Your ships are generating enormous amounts of power to maintain their weapons, shields, engines, and life support systems. The recursion drive is simply convincing that energy to take a different path. Stop this immediately. I'm afraid I cannot do that. You see, the process is self-sustaining now. The more energy your ships produce to try to break free from the field, the stronger the field becomes. It feeds on the very power you use to fight it. Around the hegemony fleet, space had begun to glow with the same blue-white energy that surrounded the Defiant. The quantum field was spreading, encompassing more and more ships with each passing second. All vessels report significant power loss, the tactical officer announced, his voice cracking. Weapon systems are failing. Shield generators are going offline. Kethvar slammed his four fists on his command console. Impossible. No single ship can drain power from an entire fleet. You are quite right, Chen agreed. No single ship could do this, but the recursion drive is not drawing power from your ships directly. It is convincing your ships to give up their power willingly. What do you mean? Think of it this way, Admiral. Your ships generate energy by converting matter in their fusion reactors. That energy flows through conduits and systems throughout each vessel. But what if those systems suddenly forgot which direction they were supposed to send that energy? What if instead of powering your weapons and shields, all that energy decided to flow backward through your conduits and out into space? The lights on Kethvar's bridge went out completely. Emergency power kicked in a few seconds later, bathing everything in a red glow that made his officers look like demons. The humans have turned our own technology against us, his second-in-command whispered. Not turned against you, Chen corrected, somehow still able to monitor their communications. Your technology is working exactly as designed. The recursion drive has simply provided it with new instructions. Instructions written in the language of physics itself. Kethvar staggered to his command chair as his flagship shuddered around him. Warning alarms blared from dozens of systems as power levels throughout the massive ship dropped to critical levels. All ships in the fleet are reporting the same condition, his tactical officer said. Power systems are failing across the board. At this rate, we will lose life support within the hour. How do we stop it? I do not know, sir. I have never seen anything like this. On the main screen, the Defiant continued to glow with captured energy. The small human ship looked like a star now, blazing with power stolen from 847 warships. And the quantum field continued to spread, reaching further into Kethvar's formation with each passing moment. Captain Chen, he said, trying to keep the desperation from his voice. What do you want? I want exactly what I wanted when we first spoke, Admiral. I want you to turn your fleet around and leave this system. Our ships barely have enough power left to maintain life support. We cannot possibly make the jump to hyperspace. That is unfortunate, Chen replied, though her tone suggested she did not find it unfortunate at all. However, I believe your engineers will discover that your ships retain exactly enough power to operate engines and navigation systems. Weapons and shield generators, on the other hand, will remain offline for approximately 72 hours. Kethvar felt his heart sink as he understood what the human had done. She had not destroyed his fleet. She had surgically removed its ability to fight while leaving everything else intact. You are disabling us, he realized. I am giving you a choice, Admiral. You can use your remaining power to leave this system peacefully, or you can drift here until your life support fails. The decision is entirely yours. For the first time in his long military career, Admiral Kethvar of the Zephyrian hegemony faced an enemy he could not defeat through superior firepower. And that enemy was a single human ship, 1/100th the size of his flagship. How? He whispered. Captain Chen smiled. We asked better questions. Admiral Kethvar sat in his command chair, staring at the readings on his darkened bridge. The numbers told a story that his military mind refused to accept, even as the evidence surrounded him. 847 warships, each one, capable of destroying entire planets, had been reduced to floating hulks in less than 5 minutes. Not destroyed, not damaged, simply turned off. Engineering reports from across the fleet, sir, his tactical officer announced, his voice barely above a whisper. All vessels report the same condition. Weapon systems are completely offline. Shield generators are not responding. Main engines are operating at minimum power only. Life support? Functional, but running on emergency reserves. We have perhaps 60 hours of air and heat remaining if we do nothing else. Kethavar's forearms hung limp at his sides. 60 hours. After 5 centuries of military service, after conquering 47 star systems, his career would end not in glorious battle, but in the slow suffocation of a crippled fleet. Sir, his second-in-command said carefully, perhaps we should consider the humans' offer. Surrender? Kethvar's mandibles clicked sharply. The Zephyrian hegemony does not surrender. With respect, Admiral, we may not have a choice. On the main view screen, the human ship continued to blaze with stolen energy. The Defiant looked like a miniature star now, pulsing with the combined power of an entire fleet. The quantum field around it had stabilized, but Kethvar could feel its presence like a weight pressing against his thoughts. Open a channel to the human ship, he ordered. Captain Chen's image appeared on the screen immediately, as if she had been waiting for his call. Her bridge showed no signs of strain or damage. Her crew worked calmly at their stations as though disabling the most powerful fleet in the galaxy was routine work for them. Admiral, Chen said with a polite nod, I hope you have had time to consider your situation. How are you doing this? Kethvar demanded. What kind of weapon are you using? It is not a weapon, Admiral. The recursion drive is a tool for manipulating the fundamental forces of reality. Think of it as convincing the universe to rearrange itself in more convenient ways. That is impossible. You cannot change the laws of physics. You are quite right. We cannot change the laws of physics, but we can understand them better than anyone else has before. Chen gestured to something off-screen. Dr. Park, would you explain the principle to the Admiral? Another human appeared on the screen, a woman with graying hair and kind eyes behind thick glasses. She looked more like a teacher than a warrior. Admiral Kethvar, Dr. Park said, do you know what quantum entanglement is? Kethvar's translator struggled with the unfamiliar term. I am not familiar with that concept. It is a phenomenon where 2 particles become connected across any distance. When you change one particle, the other particle changes instantly, no matter how far apart they are. Most species use this for faster-than-light communication. Yes, we have quantum communicators, but humans asked a different question, Dr. Park continued. What if instead of entangling particles, we could entangle energy flows? What if we could create connections between the power systems of different ships? That is... Kethvar paused. That should be impossible. Many things seem impossible until someone does them, Chen interjected. The recursion drive creates quantum entanglement between energy states. Your fusion reactors are still generating power, Admiral. But that power is now entangled with our ship's systems. When your energy tries to flow to your weapons, it flows to us instead. Kethvar looked at his tactical officer, who had been following the conversation with growing alarm. Is this scientifically possible? I do not know, sir. Our physicists have never theorized anything like this. That is because your physicists ask different questions than ours, Dr. Park said gently. Your people focus on making energy do what you want it to do. Humans focus on understanding what energy wants to do naturally. Energy does not want anything. It is not alive. Is it not? Chen asked. Energy follows patterns, Admiral. It flows from higher concentrations to lower concentrations. It seeks the path of least resistance. It responds to the shape of space and time around it. If that is not a form of desire, what would you call it? Kethavar felt a headache building behind his compound eyes. The human woman was talking about energy as if it were a living creature with thoughts and feelings. It made no sense. But his ships were still powerless, and hers blazed with stolen fire. "What do you want?" he asked finally. "I want you to understand something important, Admiral. This did not have to happen. You could have accepted our request to leave the system peacefully. Instead, you chose to attack us. You are one ship against 847. Numbers are not everything," Chen replied. "A single virus can kill a giant. A small key can open a massive door. A better question can defeat any amount of brute force." She gestured to her bridge around her. "Every person on this ship is a scientist, Admiral. When we learned that hostile alien fleets might threaten human colonies, we did not ask how to build bigger guns. We asked how the universe really works. And what did you discover? We discovered that the universe is far more cooperative than most people realize. It does not want to fight you, Admiral. It wants to help you. But you have to ask it the right questions." Dr. Park leaned closer to the camera. "For instance, we asked, what would happen if we convinced space itself to carry our message to every fusion reactor in your fleet? What if we asked those reactors to send their energy somewhere else for a while? What if we requested that the quantum vacuum around your ships become less stable?" "The quantum vacuum?" Kethavar's tactical officer looked up sharply. "They are manipulating the quantum vacuum?" "What does that mean?" Kethavar demanded. "Sir, the quantum vacuum is the foundation of reality itself. It is the energy that exists in empty space. If they can manipulate it..." The officer's voice trailed off. "They can manipulate anything." Kethavar finished, understanding flooding through him. Chen nodded. "The recursion drive does not just affect your ships, Admiral. It affects the space your ships exist in. We have temporarily convinced reality to work differently in this region of the galaxy." "For how long?" "Approximately 72 hours. After that, the quantum entanglement will naturally decay, and your ships will return to normal function. Your weapons will work. Your shields will activate. Your engines will operate at full power. And then you will have a choice to make. You can attack us again, in which case we will repeat this process. You can attack other human colonies, in which case other human ships will repeat this process. Or you can accept that the balance of power in this galaxy has changed." Kethavar stared at the human captain for several long moments. Around him, his bridge crew waited silently for his decision. 847 ships full of soldiers and officers, all looking to him for leadership. "If we leave," he said slowly, "what guarantee do we have that you will not attack us?" "You have my word as a Starfleet officer," Chen replied. "But more than that, you have the evidence of your own eyes. If we wanted to destroy your fleet, Admiral, we could have done it already." "How?" Dr. Park spoke up again. "We could have convinced your fusion reactors to overload instead of simply redirecting their energy. We could have asked the quantum vacuum to become truly unstable, causing your ships to simply cease to exist. We could have entangled your life support systems instead of your weapons. But we did not," Chen added. "We chose the path that would disable your ability to harm others while keeping your crews safe. That should tell you something about human intentions." Kethavar closed his eyes and tried to think. In his long career, he had faced many enemies. Some had been honorable opponents who fought with courage. Others had been treacherous creatures who used deceit and trickery. But he had never encountered an enemy who had completely defeated him and then offered to let him go. "My fleet will be helpless for 3 days," he said. "Yes." "You could destroy us at any time during those 3 days." "Yes." "Yet you are willing to let us leave." "Admiral," Chen said softly, "humans do not want to be your enemy. We want to be left alone to build our colonies and explore the galaxy in peace. If the hegemony can accept that, there is no need for further conflict. And if the hegemony cannot accept that?" Chen's expression grew serious. "Then, you will discover that the recursion drive is not the only question humans have learned to ask the universe." Kethavar opened his eyes and looked around his darkened bridge one more time. His officers waited for his command. His ships drifted powerless in space. His entire career, his entire civilization's military philosophy lay in ruins around him. But his crews were alive. His ships would fly again in 3 days. And he had learned something that might be worth more than any victory. "All ships," he announced, his voice carrying across the fleet communication system. Prepare for departure. We are leaving this system. 3 days later, Admiral Kethvar stood in the war room of the Hegemony High Command, facing 12 of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. The Council of Species sat around a circular table made from crystallized starlight, their various forms casting strange shadows on the polished floor. Explain, commanded High Counselor Vexhai, her voice carrying the authority of 1,000 conquered worlds. Explain how the greatest fleet in galactic history was defeated by a single human ship. Kethvar's forearms remained clasped behind his back as he recounted the events at Proxima. He spoke of energy fields that defied understanding, of weapons that turned against their users, of a small vessel that had somehow convinced reality itself to change the rules. Impossible, hissed Counselor Morduk, his serpentine body coiling with agitation. No species has ever developed technology that can manipulate fundamental forces on that scale. Yet it happened, Kethvar replied quietly. I have the sensor. Logs from 847 ships to prove it. Show us, Vexhai ordered. The lights dimmed as holographic displays filled the air above the table. The assembled counselors watched in silence as the battle played out before them. They saw the human ship transform into living light. They witnessed the quantum field spreading across space like ripples on water. They observed the moment when an entire fleet became helpless. When the recording ended, the war room remained quiet for several minutes. How many casualties? Asked Counselor Thekmor, his rocky features showing no emotion. None, Kethvar admitted. The humans disabled our weapons and engines while leaving life support completely functional. They could have destroyed us but chose not to. Merciful enemies are often more dangerous than cruel ones, Vexhai observed. They leave you alive to spread word of their power. High Counselor Zarthek leaned forward, his ancient form crackling with bioelectric energy. What did you learn about this recursion drive? Only what the humans chose to tell me. It manipulates quantum entanglement on a massive scale. It can redirect energy flows across vast distances. It treats the laws of physics like suggestions rather than absolute rules. And their other capabilities? Unknown. Captain Chen implied that they have developed other technologies based on similar principles. She suggested that the recursion drive was not their most advanced achievement. Several counselors exchanged concerned glances. The hegemony had ruled through superior technology for 3,000 years. The idea that a young species might have surpassed them was deeply unsettling. What are your recommendations, Admiral? Vexhai asked. Kethvar had spent the 3-day journey back to hegemony space thinking about that question. He had considered every military option, every diplomatic possibility, every strategic advantage the hegemony might still possess. We negotiate, he said finally. The reaction was immediate. Counselor Morduk's serpentine form rose to its full height while Thekmor's rocky fists slammed against the table. Several other counselors began speaking at once in their native languages. Negotiate? Vexhai's voice cut through the chaos. The hegemony does not negotiate with inferior species. With respect, High Counselor, the humans have proven they are not inferior. They defeated our greatest fleet without firing a single shot. They achieved a level of technological advancement that our best scientists consider impossible. And they did it all in less than 300 years of spaceflight. They are still a young species with a handful of colonies, Counselor Thekmor rumbled. We could overwhelm them with sheer numbers. Could we? Kethvar asked. How many ships would you be willing to lose? 10,000? 100,000? Because if the humans can disable 800 ships as easily as they disabled one, numbers may not matter. He activated his personal holographic display, showing star charts of the local sector. More importantly, how many other species will be watching? The Kalari Federation has been monitoring our expansion for decades. The Nexus Collective has been building up their own fleets. If we suffer massive losses against the humans, how long before our other enemies decide we are vulnerable? The war room fell quiet again, as the counselors considered his words. The hegemony ruled through fear, as much as strength. If that fear was broken, their empire might face rebellion on a dozen fronts. What kind of negotiations do you suggest? Vexhai asked eventually. Recognition of human territorial claims in exchange for technological cooperation. The humans clearly understand physics in ways we do not. A formal alliance could benefit both species. Alliance? Morduk's voice dripped with disgust. We do, not ally with prey species. They are not prey, Kethvar replied firmly. They are predators who choose not to hunt. There is a difference. High Counselor Zarthek spoke for the first time, his ancient voice crackling with energy. What makes you so certain they will not eventually turn their weapons against us? Kethvar thought of Captain Chen's calm demeanor, of her crew's professional behavior, of the careful way they had disabled his fleet without causing unnecessary harm, because they had the perfect opportunity to destroy us and chose not to. Because they could have held my ships hostage and demanded tribute, but instead let us leave freely. Because when they had unlimited power over us, they used it with restraint. He paused, remembering the final conversation with the human captain. Captain Chen told me something before we departed. She said that humans do not want to conquer the galaxy. They want to understand it. And you believe her? I believe their actions, High Counselor. They could have taken my fleet intact and used our ships to attack other hegemony worlds. Instead, they sent us home with a message. Leave us alone and we will leave you alone. Vex High stood and walked to the great window that looked out over the hegemony's capital city. Millions of beings from dozens of species worked and lived in the towers below, all part of an empire that had seemed unshakable just a week ago. If we negotiate with the humans, she said slowly, it will be seen as a sign of weakness by other species. If we attack them again and lose more ships, it will be seen as proof of weakness, Kethvar countered. Better to appear wise than foolish. What about our expansion plans? The human colonies sit on strategic trade routes. Perhaps we can find other routes. The galaxy is vast, High Counselor. There are many paths between the stars. Vexhai turned back to the council table. The humans defeated our fleet using science rather than brute force. They asked questions we never thought to ask. Is that an accurate assessment? Yes. Then perhaps we should be asking different questions as well. She looked around the table at her fellow counselors. Instead of asking how to defeat the humans, perhaps we should ask how to coexist with them. The debate continued for several more hours, but Kethavar could sense the shift in the room's atmosphere. Fear was giving way to curiosity. Anger was being replaced by calculation. The hegemony was adapting, as successful civilizations always did when faced with new realities. 2 weeks later, Kethavar found himself back in human space, but this time as an ambassador rather than a conqueror. His ship, a sleek diplomatic vessel rather than a massive dreadnought, dropped out of hyperspace near Earth itself. The blue-green world hung before him like a jewel, surrounded by orbital stations and defense platforms that looked deceptively simple compared to hegemony technology. But Kethavar had learned not to judge human capabilities by appearances. Admiral Kethavar, came a familiar voice over the communication system. This is Captain Chen. Welcome to Earth. Captain, I am pleased to see you again under better circumstances. As am I. Are you ready to begin negotiations? Kethavar looked at the peaceful world before him, thinking of the small ship that had changed everything. Somewhere down there, human scientists were probably asking new questions that would reshape the galaxy once again. Yes, he said. We are ready to learn. And in a research facility on Earth's surface, Dr. Sarah Chen looked up from her work on the next generation of quantum field manipulators. She smiled as she thought about the former Admiral Kethavar, who had proven that even the oldest enemies could learn to ask better questions. The galaxy was changing. Species that had never worked together were beginning to share knowledge. Ancient conflicts were being resolved through cooperation rather than conquest, and at the center of it all was a simple human philosophy. When faced with an impossible problem, ask a different question. Captain Chen returned to her work, already wondering what new questions tomorrow might bring. After all, the universe was vast, and humans had barely begun to explore what it might teach them.